Chapter 12, Section 3 is about rotations. Our objective is to understand rotations. And we start out here with triangle ABC. And first we need to reflect it over line M, which is right here, and then reflect it over line N. So you're going to take your tracing paper, and then you are going to outline the triangle, and then you pick up your tracing paper and you line it up, and then you have the reflection of the triangle over line M, and I'm going to draw that in a little bit better. This will be A prime, B prime, and C prime. And now, after we've reflected that over line M, now we need to reflect that over line N. So there is our triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. And now we're going to reflect that over here. And as we trace that, we will then have, oops, let me trace it a little bit darker. That will be triangle A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. So we did two reflections there. So here's a couple questions. How many reflections did we perform? We did 2. Are the lines parallel or intersecting? And right here they are intersecting. So what we did is we reflected over 2 intersecting lines, and that is the same as a rotation. And if we take our tracing paper and trace over a triangle ABC, so here is triangle ABC. Put your pencil right here, and you can actually see the rotation, and your triangles line up. And this point right here is called the center of the rotation. And here I rotate it again. Here's our definition of rotation. A rotation is a transformation about a point P, called the center of the rotation, such that each point and its image are the same distance from P, and such that all angles with a vertex P formed by a point and its image are congruent. In the figure, A, P, A prime, so from here to here to here, is called the angle of the rotation. In our first example, we need to look at these things and say whether they are rotations. This first one is not a rotation. It would actually be a translation. And if we go from one pre-image point to an image point, that would be the translation vector. Letter B, that one is a rotation. Letter C, that one is a rotation. And I've had people look at letter C before and say that doesn't really look like they match up. So let me trace these and then put my pencil on the center, and then you can see that they do in fact line up, and that is in fact a rotation. And letter D, that is not a rotation, that is a reflection. At the top of the next page, there's another way to perform rotations besides doing 2 reflections. And the first thing we are asked to do is measure the acute angle between M in N, and as I measure that, that is, it's not an acute angle. As we extend that, I would say that is, let's see, 100 degrees. Actually, if we do the acute angle, this would be 80 degrees, and this would be 100 degrees. And then we're going to draw an angle from A to P, to the center of the rotation, to A prime. And if we measure that one, so my paper's kind of upside down, here's the 0, sorry, I'm trying to line that up right, and if we measure that angle, it ends up being about 160. So this right here would be 160 degrees. And you'll notice if this acute angle was 80, the angle right here was double that. So if this angle here is 100 degrees, then this angle here would be double that, which would be 200. So whatever the angle is between the intersecting lines, the rotation is double that. And let's fill in these words here. Since rotations are like spinning or turning, we often talk about the direction of the turn. The direction is referred to as clockwise or counterclockwise. Clockwise is a negative direction, and for some reason that always seems wrong to me, but clockwise is negative, and counterclockwise is the positive direction. So to rotate these things, I'm going to make like a starting line right here from the center to any point, and I missed it there, and that point right there. And then since this is positive, we want to go counterclockwise, so we want our angle to go up in this direction, and I need to draw an angle right here that is 65 degrees. So I started and drew kind of that baseline, and then I drew an angle right there. This angle is 65 degrees. And now what I do with my tracing paper is I trace that base angle, and then I trace my shape. And I flip the paper over and trace the shape on the back. And now if I line that all up again, I put my pencil right at the center, and then when I rotate that around, we have, and we trace that, you have a rotation of 65 degrees. Now let's take a look at the next example. First we need to draw that baseline, and I'm going to go, let's see, from Q to this point right here, and we want negative 110. So we want to go clockwise, which is this way. And we draw an angle right here, which is 110 degrees. So I mark up here 110. That angle right there is 110 degrees. And then I trace that baseline and I trace the shape. Pick up my tracing paper and flip it over. And then we line that up. Put your pencil right here and rotate it all the way around. And there is our rotation of 110 degrees. From right here, rotate it around to right there. Sorry, negative 110 degrees. And example 4, we start out the same way and we draw this baseline. And now we have to copy this angle over here. So I'm going to trace this, and you'll see how it goes in that direction. So I want my angle, when I line it up, to be going in that direction. And right there, if I extend that, what I've just done is copied that angle. And now, just like we did before, we trace our baseline and we trace our shape. We have to flip it over, kind of color over that. And then we line it up, put your pencil right there, and rotate that around. And there is our rotation of that angle. Next thing we're going to do is some rotations on a coordinate plane. If you rotate 90 degrees, so you take this point right here and you rotate it 90 degrees, that is the same as rotating it this way, which would be a negative 270 degrees. And that point xy becomes negative yx, negative yx. If you take a point right here and rotate it 180 degrees, that becomes negative x, negative y, and 180 degrees is the same thing. And then 270 degrees would be the same as a negative 90, and if you rotate 270 degrees, that would be the same as y negative x, and that's the same as negative 90. So I'm going to take a minute, and at the top of my next paper, I'm just going to write those rules. Rotation of 90, start with xy, that becomes negative yx. Rotation of 180, xy becomes negative x, negative y. And a rotation of negative 90 of the point xy becomes y negative x. And this is the same as a rotation of negative 270, and this is the same as a rotation of positive 270. And I just put those up there just kind of as a reminder to me, so I remember what I'm doing on these. First one, we need to graph this triangle. 2, 2 is point J. 4, -5 is K. And -1, -2 is L. And that is our first triangle. And we want to rotate this 180 degrees. So we're just going to change both of those. That will become -2, -2, -4, 5, and 1, 2. So J prime will become -2, -2. K prime will become -4, 5. And L prime is 1, 2. And then if you want to shade that in, just kind of shows you exactly what the pre-image and image are. Letter B is a rotation of 270, which is right here. So we have to switch them around, and then the second one, the X becomes negative. So we're going to flip these around, and then this one that's in the first place right now becomes negative. So that would become -1, -2. Switching these around, you would have 1, -4. And switching these around, you would have 3, -3. So our points, starting with our first triangle, 2 to the right and down 1 is A. Over 4 and up 1 is B. And then over 3 and up 3 is C. And then the rotation, -1, -2 is A prime. 1, -4 is B prime. And 3, -3 is C prime. And that triangle is our pre-image, and this triangle is our image. Rotation of 90, I'm just going to write the rule here. XY becomes -y, x. So you flip them around, and then the first one is the negative. So flip these around, and then make the first one a negative, would be -2, 3. Flipping those around, we would have a -3, -1. And flip those around and make the first one the opposite. That would be a 1, -1. So our first triangle is 3, 2, 3 to the right and up 2, -1, 3, and -1, -1. So there's our first triangle. Our second triangle, -2, 3, which is A prime. -3, -1 is B prime. And 1, -1 is C prime. And there's our triangle. And I'm going to shade in my image. Pre-image is the one you start with. Image is the one you end up with. And letter D, we have a triangle, and we're going to rotate it -90. -90 is like 270, and our rule here, XY becomes Y -X. So here's our first one, -4, 2, negative 1, 2, negative 3, 0. And I should probably label those W, X, Y. Our new points, when we switch these around and make the second one the opposite, that will become 2, 4, 2, 1, and 0, 3. So 2, 4 will be W prime, 2, 1 will be X prime, and 0, 3 will be Z prime.